Leave your comments on the Ask Reddit sub, and I'll read your answers on the next episode of LWIAR. What is the greatest comeback to an insult you've ever heard? Joe Pine interviewing Frank Zappa. Joe: I guess your long hair makes you a woman. FZ: I guess your wooden leg makes you a table. How does a dude named Pine have a wooden leg? What if it's mahogany or oak? Ha ha ha, I didn't even think about that. Good stuff. Not even clever, but one of my favorite Zappa lines, because it's so outlandish, is "May your crap come to life and kiss you on the face. Nobody looks good with brown lipstick." Was that just Zappa's way of saying don't ear kiss butt? Ha ha, I always loved that one, too. During WW1, Switzerland had a tiny standing army, but they were very skilled marksmen. Wilhelm II of Germany asked what 250k Swiss troops would do if he decided to invade with 500k German troops. The Swiss said, "Shoot twice and go home." And that, good sir, is how getting Swiss cheese got the definition we know today. It sounds right, but I don't know enough about cheese to dispute it. Switzerland is actually neutral now, in part because they were such good fighters. Many European countries hired Swiss mercenaries to fight for them. At least, that's what I heard in a YouTube video. Yeah, but nowadays it's just to avoid getting wrecked by any enemy Switzerland might face, since it is in the middle of Europe and with a very small army. Switzerland is also not worth taking. There's nothing there to justify losing hundreds of thousands of men in the Alpine passes to Swiss artillery and marksmen, even if you do take the country. Does their financial prowess have anything to do with it? Sure. Invade us. Find out what happens when all your billionaire oligarch buddies' bank accounts are suddenly empty. Part of it. The other part is it's just a bunch of mountainous valleys. There's not really much reason to invade Switzerland. Certainly not enough to justify the losses you'd take invading and then occupying it. Much easier to just go around the Swiss. Is Switzerland the country that has demo set up on all major entrances, exits and enough bomb shelters for the entire population? Yes, there used to be explosives in every bridge and tunnel in the mountains and close to the border. But not anymore. Indeed, it should take the troops maybe 12 hours to reinstall the explosives. 18th century British radical politician John Wilkes was told in Parliament by a political opponent, "Sir, I do not know whether you will die on the gallows or of the pox." Wilkes shot back with, "That depends, my lord, on whether I embrace your lordship's principles or your mistress." Imagine hitting someone with such a fire burn that people are discussing it 250 years later. Wilkes shot back with, "That depends, my lord, on whether I embrace your lordship's principles or your mistress." The lords observed with snide delight. He glanced, ashamed, from left to right. He stood to make his own reply. "I know you are, but what am I?" Quote. He's basically calling dude a scumbag and saying his girl is a dirty hoe. Or, in the words of classical poet DMX, "You whack, you're twisted, your girl's a hoe." DMX, or as he was known in 18th century British dark man Xavier. "You broke the kid ain't yours, and everybody knows. Your old man say you stupid, you be like, so. I love my baby mother, I never let her go. I wanna act like I'm sophisticated enough to get this, but I'm absolutely not." The pox, a slang for disease, or smallpox, or something equally nasty that would kill you or hurt you real bad. The gallows, death by hanging. So he, Wilkes, basically said, "If I follow your principles, I'll be hanged. If I frick your side chick, I'll die of an STD or some weird disease," implying that his political opponent basically has no morals and his side chick is a disease-ridden woman. Yeah, the pox could refer to the great pox commonly known as syphilis, which would be calling his mistress a whore by saying she has acquired STDs by sleeping around. Too bad they didn't have penicillin, because then they mightn't have had to worry about having their penicillin. Brief edit. You who golded me, please, take my thanks, and my wife. Just kidding, I'm no longer married. My grandparents used to bicker. My grandmother generally came out on top, as she was fierier. One time though, she was asking him to do a bunch of stuff, and he muttered, "If you'd lose some weight, you could do it yourself." She fixed her gaze on him, and glowered. I'm thinking of getting rid of about 200 pounds of useless fat immediately. He replied, you're going to cut off your foot. Quote, damn. Man, nobody bickers like old married couples bicker. They've had decades to perfect their craft. Also, they know practically everything about each other, including what will really hit home. Also how to produce insults that are scathing in the eyes of others but not actually damaging to each other. If they truly wanted to dig into each other, they would have figured out how to make each other want a divorce by now. Someone yelled out in a Walmart, I'm not ashamed of who I am. Another voice echoed back, that's your parents' job. Back in middle school I was at Walmart with a friend of mine looking for pants. Being a tomboy, I like to wear baggy boys' pants. Nor did I wear makeup. Another kid came up to me and snarkily asked PFFD, what are you, a boy or a girl? And without missing a beat I responded, why, do you think I'm hot? Quote, he just got flustered and walked away mumbling obscenities. This was the 90s, so that gender question actually was insulting to my 14-year-old brain. Not the greatest, but I still hold pride for my quick wit back then. Too bad that's all gone now. For some reason everyone in high school thought I was a lesbian. So a straight dude in my grade walked by me and was trying to make fun of me, gay bash, and said, well, at least I don't like girls. Quote, I just kinda stared at him and waited for it to click. Woman shrugging. Saw a clip of a stand-up comedian the other day, and he says something along the lines of, the first time I had sex it was terrible. The first time I had sex, and a woman chimes in with, you mean yesterday? Crowd laughs for a while. And while the comedian is waiting for them to calm down you can see the gears turn in his head. Once it gets down to basically a few chuckles, he just says glad you remember, and the crowd just lost their crap. It was amazing. Okay, now we need the source of this clip. Here you go, youtube.be. That man put that response in his pocket within 5 seconds and just waited to return fire. You could see with every flash of his hands he was ready to retort and was waiting to be heard. LMAO. A true comedian knows her timing is key. I swear half of comedy shows is just that comedian waving their hat a bit and looking down waiting for everyone to calm down. It's all about the timing, and he knew it. Too soon and it would fall flat. Too late and it would sound desperate. He gauged the crowd perfectly and hurled it with the precision of a sniper. He flipped his hand every time he wanted to say it. I used to work with this like 70-year-old woman. She was our supervisor, and one day one of the ladies who worked with us told this old lady to kiss my butt, and the old lady replied, where do I start? You're so fat your crack goes all the way up your back. Gran, how many times do we have to tell you? We are not a crematorium. I asked my mother why she always wears makeup despite being in her 40s. She told me she wears makeup so she doesn't look like me. Edit. I was 9. You deserve that. Savage. Classy. Boogie. Nasty. Ruthless. I always think I am hysterical when I tell people that my grandfather became ruthless after my grandmother died. My grandmother's name was Ruth. I loved her dearly, but I can't get enough of that stupid joke. A guy makes fun of his bald friend by rubbing his head and saying, wow, your head is as smooth as my wife's bottom. The friend also rubs his head and says, well, you're right. That had to hurt. Quiet guy in my art class got called queer bait. He replied with, if I'm the bait then you're the catch of the day. So turns out you can catch the gay. My 10-year-old cousin was pushed aside by an older student at school who also felt the need to call him a gay child. My cousin told him not to get his hopes up. You wish became the kryptonite to gay jokes in my elementary school for a while growing up. You wish, he said, and shook his head, and laughed and left him to. The other stood alone for good, and whispered just, quote, I do. Do your parents know you're gay? My first exposure to a trick question. Do yours? One of my co-workers was cold calling customers, trying to get appointments to drum up business. One of them told him to go frick his hand, and he responded with, I've got that penciled in for 3. I should be done by 4 if you'd like to come in for an appointment then. The guy laughed his butt off and ended up coming in for the appointment. I had a co-worker, also in sales, also cold calling, a take-no-crap middle-aged woman. When people hung up on us, sometimes we'd pull back and play dumb. Often people would realize they were being rude. This is more business to business. Anyhow, this lady couldn't help herself, so she'd pull back, feign the same polite friendliness, and say, "Hey, sorry. I think we were rudely disconnected." Edit. Some context: business to business cold calling isn't the same as cold calling people's houses to sell a vacuum. Some industries don't advertise on TV. And when you're selling a service, rather than a product, and it's custom, it's not at all normal or sound business advice to do all of your own research on Google. Not all cold callers are hoping to find someone in a vulnerable state to trick them into an impulse buy. We would make an introduction cold to get to the appropriate decision maker, but the deal wouldn't close for another 6 to 9 months. Usually, never the day of the cold call. People rarely hung up on us. Maybe once a month. And when they did, it was always the gatekeeper. That's who she would say this to. And while it certainly wasn't good sales technique, decision makers generally care more about their bottom line than their receptionist's feelings over being called rude for being rude. Contrary to this thread, introducing yourself to someone over the phone is, like, a thing people will do, and the person on the other end who hangs up is literally being paid for the sole purpose of facilitating such communication. Also, assuming everyone here is employed, your paycheck relies on one of 3 things: salespeople, advertising, or taxpayers. Receptionists get to pretend that's not the case. Same as many of you. But their boss knows that they too rely on sales, advertising, and or taxpayers, without which we would have no small business or competition of any sort. What I'm saying is, if you hate salespeople, refuse to work for anyone who uses them. Oh wait, let's not be myopic. In all likelihood, a salesperson helped you get your last paycheck, and you helped a salesperson get theirs. Your favorite products and your favorite company came into existence by annoying people sometimes. We're all in this together. No man is an island. And it's really not that hard to treat people with respect. I hang up on scam callers because I figure that's more polite than telling them off. I won't waste their time making them say their spiel when I know I won't buy whatever. Call me back and call me rude for hanging up and you'll find out just how freaking rude I can be. Winston Churchill, of course. Lady Nancy Astor, Winston, if you were my husband, I'd poison your tea. Churchill, Nancy, if I were your husband, I'd drink it. Winston, you are drunk. Disgustingly drunk. Yes, madam, but you're fat, and when morning comes, I shall be sober. LMAO, I think he said tomorrow I will be sober, but you will still be ugly. Lady Nancy Astor, Winston, if you were my husband, I'd poison your tea. Churchill, Nancy, if I were your husband, I'd drink it. When little Winnie met a girl, he said from on his knee, I'll give this marriage thing a whirl, 'cause you're the one for me. And so it was. The two were wed, but Winnie loathed his wife. This marriage freaking sucks, he said. I hate my freaking life. But Winnie woke one fated day to tea and cyanide. He said, I'll drink it anyway, and Winnie freaking died. I was the one insulted, but not the one with the comeback. I was out with a co-worker and her friends, and my buddy and I were leaving a little too early for her sensibilities. She jokingly got up in my face and said, smell that, smells like pussy. A guy playing at the pool table next to us stepped forward and said, I'm sorry, that must be me. I just ate. It was amazing. Smooth. Goddamn. That man knew what he was doing. He was just waiting to use that line. My grandma asked my cousin, who'd had lots of partners and 2 kids at this point, if she was ever going to get married. Cousin, it's not the same nowadays. We don't buy cars without test driving them first, Grandma. Yeah, but they don't let you put 100,000 miles on them either. Point goes to Granny. Your cousin's not a car, she's a bicycle. Well, now I'm imagining a bicycle driving a car. Thanks for watching LWIAR. The best of recent r/AskReddit submissions and comments. If you like this video, check out LWIAR too. And don't forget to like and subscribe.